To the public, Roddy McDowall looked like one of the safest men in Hollywood. He was charming, sophisticated, endlessly connected, and trusted by nearly every major star of the 1960s. But behind the walls of his home, Roddy was secretly building something so massive that it eventually triggered an FBI raid involving trucks, federal agents, and over 1,000 seized films and tapes. What authorities discovered inside his private archive shocked Hollywood. Hidden among the rare movies and recordings was a secret world of private footage, personal connections, and information involving some of the biggest stars of the era, people like Rock Hudson and Elizabeth Taylor. And when Roddy realized he could lose everything, some believe he made a decision that quietly destroyed friendships and exposed secrets nobody expected to come out. From war refugee to Hollywood's favorite child star. Roddy McDowall was born on September 17, 1928, in Herne Hill, London, as Roderick Andrew Anthony Jude McDowall. From an early age, his mother, Winifred, believed he was destined for the spotlight. A failed actress herself, she pushed Roddy toward performance almost immediately. By age 4, he had already won a poetry contest, and at 5, he began taking elocution lessons. At just 10 years old, he made his film debut in Murder in the Family and quickly became one of Britain's busiest child actors, appearing in 16 films before even leaving the country. Then, World War II changed everything. In 1940, as German bombs fell over Britain, Roddy's family fled to America during Operation Pied Piper. They arrived with only $42 due to wartime restrictions, while Roddy's father remained behind in military service. Determined to help her son succeed, his mother took him to talent agencies across New York until Hollywood finally noticed him. Fox Studios had been searching for a new child star, and Roddy's natural talent, polished British accent, and real-life refugee story immediately stood out. Director William Wyler was especially impressed after seeing his screen test. In 1941, Roddy made his American debut in Manhunt, playing a boy helping someone escape the Nazis, a role that felt deeply personal after his own escape from wartime Europe. That same year, he appeared in How Green Was My Valley, which famously defeated Citizen Kane to win Best Picture at the Oscars. Critics praised Roddy's performance, and Fox quickly signed him to a 7-year contract. Over the next few years, he became one of Hollywood's most beloved young stars through films like My Friend Flicka, The Keys of the Kingdom, and Molly and Me, where audiences connected with his emotional depth and vulnerability during the difficult war years. Reinventing himself beyond child stardom. Despite his growing success, life behind the scenes was far from easy for Roddy McDowall. By the age of 16, he had become the main financial provider for his family, earning an enormous salary for the time while working 6 days a week. Although many child actors lost their fortunes, Roddy's mother carefully managed his earnings. Still, the non-stop schedule left him anxious, exhausted, and deprived of a normal teenage life. As he grew older, Hollywood began questioning whether he could successfully move beyond his image as a child star. Roddy started proving himself through more mature and challenging roles, especially in the Broadway production compulsion in the late 1950s. Based on a real-life murder case, the play allowed him to portray a far darker and more emotionally complex character than audiences were used to seeing from him. Even though he was later replaced in the film adaptation, the stage performance became an important turning point in his career. Throughout the 1960s, Roddy continued taking on increasingly sophisticated roles. In Midnight Lace, he played a suspicious and unsettling character opposite Doris Day, showing audiences a completely different side of himself. Around the same time, he earned praise on Broadway in Camelot as the manipulative Mordred, a performance that earned him a Tony nomination and established him as a serious stage actor. Roddy also became part of several major Hollywood productions during the decade. In the massive historical epic Cleopatra, he played Octavius while witnessing firsthand the chaos surrounding the troubled production, and the scandal involving Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Later, in The Greatest Story Ever Told, he portrayed the Apostle Matthew with a quieter emotional depth that critics appreciated. The secret archivist of Hollywood. But one of his most iconic transformations came with Planet of the Apes. To play Cornelius, the intelligent chimpanzee archaeologist, Roddy endured grueling makeup sessions that began around 2 a.m. every morning and lasted several hours. Early tests reportedly took up to 7 hours just to apply the prosthetics. The ape makeup was built piece by piece, with separate prosthetic ears, chins, layers of hair, and even blackened teeth to complete the illusion. Roddy endured the exhausting process for hours every morning, 5 days a week, for months. But when the film became a massive hit in 1968, all the effort paid off. His portrayal of Cornelius turned into the defining role of his career. What made Roddy different, though, was what he did when the cameras stopped rolling. While most actors rested between scenes, he quietly carried around an 8mm camera and filmed everything happening behind the scenes. He captured actors joking around in full ape makeup, riding helicopters, relaxing on set, and drinking through straws because the prosthetics made normal movement impossible. Years later, he even returned to the makeup chair just to appear on Carol Burnett's show and share his personal footage with audiences. Without realizing it, Roddy had become one of Hollywood's unofficial historians. He returned to the franchise in Escape from the Planet of the Apes in 1971, where the story shifted away from pure science fiction spectacle into something more emotional and political. Critics praised the sequel for its deeper themes and character-driven storytelling, much of which rested on Roddy's performance. In 1974, he joined the Planet of the Apes television series as Galen, helping guide the tone of the show while using his experience to improve the difficult makeup process for the cast and crew. Outside of acting, Roddy developed another reputation inside Hollywood as one of the industry's most trusted photographers. In 1966, he released the photography book Double Exposure, featuring portraits of nearly 100 celebrities paired with written reflections from other famous stars. It was an unusual concept at the time and became a huge success. Because Roddy had spent years quietly building friendships across Hollywood, celebrities felt comfortable revealing more of themselves through his camera than they often did with professional photographers. That trust became even more apparent in his later photography collection, Double Exposure. Take Two in 1989. Some of the most haunting images involved Judy Garland, whom Roddy had befriended during the Judy Garland show in the 1960s. Unlike the glamorous studio portraits audiences were used to seeing, Roddy's photos captured Garland exhausted, emotionally drained, and visibly struggling behind the scenes. Having witnessed firsthand how fame, pressure, addiction, and studio control affected many stars of old Hollywood, Roddy quietly preserved moments that most of the industry desperately tried to hide. During the summer of 1965, Roddy McDowall quietly filmed a private beach gathering at his Malibu home that looked nothing like Hollywood's carefully controlled public image. Stars like Paul Newman, Lauren Bacall, Rock Hudson, Anthony Perkins, Natalie Wood, and Jane Fonda relaxed freely away from studio cameras and gossip reporters. Roddy captured them laughing, drinking, flirting, and behaving like ordinary people rather than polished celebrities. He never released the footage because he knew it could destroy careers during an era when studios tightly controlled stars' personal lives. That same loyalty appeared in his friendship with Montgomery Clift. After Clift's horrific 1956 car accident outside Elizabeth Taylor's home nearly killed him and permanently changed his face, Roddy quietly photographed his painful recovery in private. The photos showed Clift struggling emotionally and physically, but Roddy kept them hidden during his friend's lifetime to protect him. Roddy's friendship with Elizabeth Taylor later became one of the emotional centers of his photography books. In Double Exposure, Take 4, Taylor openly discussed her addictions, insecurities, marriages, and emotional struggles, while Roddy photographed her in unusually honest and vulnerable moments. Their friendship lasted from childhood until Roddy's death in 1998, and those close to them said he became one of the few people Taylor fully trusted. Roddy also supported friends through Hollywood scandals, including standing by Maureen O'Hara during a false tabloid controversy in the 1950s. More importantly, his Malibu home became a rare safe place where stars like Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter could relax without fear of exposure in an era when being openly gay could destroy a career overnight. Roddy occasionally filmed those private moments, not for scandal, but because he understood he was quietly preserving a hidden side of Hollywood history. The FBI raid that changed everything. One of the most painful stories Roddy McDowall witnessed up close involved Judy Garland during the making of A Star is Born. The film was supposed to be Garland's triumphant comeback, but behind the scenes the production became emotionally devastating. Despite the movie's enormous budget for the time, the studio removed nearly half an hour of footage without the director's approval, a decision many later believed damaged Garland's Oscar chances and permanently hurt her career. Roddy saw her exhaustion, emotional breakdowns, and frustration firsthand, quietly photographing moments most people were never allowed to witness. Years later, the film would be recognized as a classic, but Roddy understood how deeply the experience wounded Garland while it was happening. By the early 1970s, Roddy had built something few people outside Hollywood even knew existed: a massive private archive of films and television recordings. He owned hundreds of rare movie prints, including classics like Citizen Kane, Lassie Come Home, and My Friend Flicka. Many of the reels had originally come directly from studios that were carelessly discarding old film materials to save storage space. Roddy became obsessed with preserving movies he feared might otherwise disappear forever. He even purchased portions of Errol Flynn's personal collection and spent large amounts of money transferring fragile films onto early videotape formats because he believed it would help protect them for future generations. To Roddy, the archive was never about money. Friends later said he often shared films at little or no profit, simply because he loved cinema and wanted others to experience it. His garage slowly transformed into a private museum of Hollywood history. Then, on December 18, 1974, everything collapsed. FBI agents arrived at Roddy's home with trucks and confiscated hundreds of rare film reels, along with more than 1,000 videotapes in what became the largest film piracy raid in FBI history at the time. Authorities accused him of illegally copying and distributing copyrighted material, even though Roddy insisted his intention had always been preservation rather than profit. As the investigation intensified, Roddy reportedly cooperated with federal authorities and identified several well-known Hollywood figures connected to private film collecting circles, including Rock Hudson. Friends were stunned. Some later claimed the emotional damage from naming people he cared about hurt Roddy more deeply than losing the collection itself. Although the government eventually dropped the case in 1975 and Roddy avoided criminal charges, the scandal permanently changed his reputation. His famous movie nights quietly disappeared, some friendships reportedly never recovered, and his name remained tied to the raid for the rest of his life. In later years, Roddy tried to channel his passion for film preservation into legal and official work. He became involved with preservation organizations and helped support restoration projects, including efforts connected to Cleopatra. What had once begun as a deeply personal mission to save forgotten Hollywood history ultimately became a cautionary tale about the blurred line between preserving art and violating ownership laws. The secrets Roddy took with him. Behind the public image of Roddy McDowall was a deeply private life that few people truly understood. In the early 1950s, Elizabeth Taylor introduced him to Montgomery Clift, and the two men reportedly formed an intense relationship. Roddy became deeply attached to Clift and even stepped away from acting for a period just to stay close to him. When the relationship ended, friends later claimed Roddy was devastated and attempted to take his own life. Even so, he remained loyal to Clift for years afterward and supported him through the final stage of his career. As a gay man living in old Hollywood, Roddy learned early how dangerous public exposure could be. Gossip magazines regularly destroyed careers, so he became known as someone who protected secrets rather than exposed them. His Malibu home quietly turned into a safe place where stars could finally relax without fear of judgment or scandal. At private gatherings, Roddy filmed and photographed celebrities in ways the public almost never saw. He captured stars like Julie Andrews, Paul Newman, Lauren Bacall, and Jane Fonda simply living ordinary lives away from studio control. He also photographed close friend Tab Hunter in playful, relaxed moments that could have created major controversy if released publicly at the time. Roddy later tried directing with the psychedelic 1967 film Tam Lin starring Ava Gardner, but studio problems and heavy editing ruined the project before audiences could properly see it. Although the film failed commercially, critics later re-evaluated it as an overlooked cult movie. In 1985, Roddy experienced a late-career comeback with Fright Night, playing Peter Vincent, a washed-up horror host forced to face real vampires. The role resonated with audiences and introduced him to a new generation of fans. But the biggest mystery came after his death in 1998. For decades, Roddy had secretly preserved diaries, letters, home movies, and recordings involving some of Hollywood's biggest stars. He donated much of the material to Boston University with one shocking condition. The archive must remain sealed until 2098, exactly 100 years after his death. The decision immediately fueled speculation that the collection may contain deeply personal secrets involving stars like Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, Judy Garland, and Natalie Wood. Until those files are finally opened, Roddy McDowall remains one of Hollywood's most mysterious and trusted insiders.